if there's no 0, that means the end of your ruler is 0. So I'm going to go through. It is at 2. Here is my 1/2 inch. So I'm going to mark that as a 1/2. And then we have a 1/4. Oh, we're right in the middle. That would be 3/4, sorry. And a 1/4. Now I can't forget that this is a whole number of 2, and here is a whole number of 3. All right, so here we go. So I'm going to write my 1/2 inches. I have 1/2, 1 1/2. Oh, I forgot 1. Sorry. 1, 1 1/2, 2, 2 1/2, 3. All right, so which one of these is it closer to? So I'm between 2 and 3. So here's my range. And I'm going to look, is it closer to 2, closer to 2 1/2, or closer to 3? And it was closer to 2 1/2. Now I'm going to go my 1/4 inches. So we have 1/4, 2/4, which is a 1/2, 3/4, 1, 1 1/4, 1 2/4, 1 3/4, 2. Remember doing all the skip counting at the beginning of the year? 2 1/4, 2 2/4, which is a 1/2, 2 3/4, 3. All right, now I can't believe I drew a line. We are halfway between this one and this one. And so what do you know about rounding? When you get to 5, what happens? Do you round down or do you round up? And if you said up, you're right. So we're going to round up to our next number. They won't ever give you one that's on the line like this. They're always going to make it really obvious. But my line happened to be, so I'm going to do what it told me to do. And I remember the number one mistake, if you measure correctly, is forgetting your whole numbers or writing the wrong whole number too. So we want 2 3/4. All right, talk about it. Explain how you can tell the difference between a 1/2 inch and a 1/4 inch marks when you're using a ruler. 1/2 inch and 1/4 inch. So which mark is our longest line? And hopefully you said a 1/2 inch. And which marks are our medium lines in between? And hopefully you said 1/4 inch. Now there's one difference. What is the longest line in an equivalent fraction with fourths? And hopefully you said 2/4 of an inch. So your longest line in the middle is 1/2, but it is also 2/4. And your medium lines are 4ths, 2/4, and 3/4. Will you ever have the same answer when you're measuring to the nearest 1/2 inch and to the nearest 1/4 inch? Well, if you're rounding it to 1/2 inch, that could also be 2/4 of an inch, because we know those are equivalent fractions. All right, circle the more precise. This is a really great word. We talk a lot about trying to be precise in our language or use the best language we can. And so this is being the most accurate in this case, most accurate or correct. So are you going to be more correct if you're rounding to a 1/2, or are you going to be more correct if you're rounding to 3/4? So what would be more correct, fourths or halves? And I hope you said the smaller fraction is going to be more precise. All right, we're going to move on to a couple of practice, and I'm just going to do one in each section. And then we'll pick one from the other side. We'll do our find the error. Those are always really good to help us think. Here we go. So we're going to take our first one. I'm going to get out my ruler here. Oh, it is right on. It is at the middle line. Oh, let me move it down where you can see. It is right in the middle. And that biggest line is going to be our half. 1.5. Oh, this is the question they just asked us. 1.5 is the same as 1 2/4, which means it's the same measurement. And don't forget your unit. With measurement, you do need a unit on there. Just get in the habit of, even though it says it, just go ahead and use your abbreviation. All right, the width of a book. The width of a book. I don't think I have one. How about we're going to use the pencil. We're going to do number 7. I'm going to use my pen right here, my Inspire pen. All right, so the first thing I need to do is find my whole numbers. And my pen is in between what two whole numbers? Yep, 5 and 6. It says 1/2 inch and 1/4 inch. So, oh, this one's perfect. So if you look, it is, I'm going to actually put it up here. I'm going to bring my camera down a little way you can really see. All right, so it is exactly 5 3/4 of a quarter. Actually, it is a little bigger. Put it up here, maybe you can see a little bit better. It is a little over that 3/4 line. So if I was to skip count, 5, 5.5, 6. If I was to skip count, if it is a little bigger than 5 3/4, it is closer to 6. So 6 inches. All right, and we said it was 5 3/4 because it is a little bit bigger. Just barely over the line. And here's our 3/4 right there. So if it is barely over the line, then the nearest fourth would be 5 3/4. So if you've noticed my strategy of writing down the fractions in between, so you could write down 5 1/4, 5.5, 5 3/4, 6. However, it helps you to know how to do that. Number 10. 1 inch and 1/4. So we're going to go, so what you do to draw, we didn't practice these, it's good just to practice them. You're going to draw a line at 0, or in my case at the end. You're going to find 1. Our biggest line is 1/2, so we want the medium line. So we're going to put a little dot. And then you're going to get your ruler. I don't have a ruler, so I'm just going to use a piece of paper. And you connect your two lines. And it's standard procedure that you would label your measurement. All right, so this will be pretty good practice. So we're finding our approximate measurement by rounding to 1/4 1/2. That's our standard. That's our skill we're practicing on. And then also measuring a three-dimensional or a real object in real time. And if you don't have these objects, just write in a new object. So you could write in a laptop, for instance, if you don't have a calculator. And then obviously though I can't, these we won't be able to check because we're all going to use different objects, but we can check the other ones. And then the other part of our standard is being able to draw a precise measurement This is both of these skills, so being able to estimate, being able to actually measure, and then being able to draw. These are all different parts of the same skill. And now that we've done it for length, we're going to be doing it for all the other types of measurement as well. All right, so find the error. James used a ruler to measure a piece of string. So what did he do wrong? So he did get 2. The biggest line is a half, so we know it's 2.5. But what did he do wrong? Well, hopefully you said he didn't start at the 0. He said that's the number one problem. So if we looked, we could actually calculate what he did, how long the string is. Because if we go from a half to 1, that is a half. And if we go from 2 to 2.5, that is also a half. And if we go from 1 to 2, that is a whole. So if you added up a half plus a half plus 1, he would have gotten 2 inches if he had started at 0. All right, we're going to pause the tape here. And again, this will give you time to do the practice problems as well as the problems on page 804. And then also the problems for the homework. Again, if you don't have something like an MP3 player, then you're going to just put a little X over that or a stapler and find an object that you're going to measure. And then you're going to complete that on page 806. When you've finished, if you take a quick snapshot, I'd be happy to measure. Some of these I won't be able to do with you because we will all have different measurements based on the object that you picked, but we can definitely do these other ones. All right, have a great day, guys. I'll move on and do the next one.